The bright blue emergency lights flashed across the command bridge as Captain Da-hyun Kim stared at the sensor readings. Nothing in his 20 years of spaceflight had prepared him for what appeared on the screens before him. "Sir, the anomaly is growing," said Navigator Yuna, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "We're being pulled toward it." The Genesis, humanity's most advanced colony ship, shuddered as unknown forces tugged at its massive frame. Behind them, the Horizon and Pathfinder reported the same phenomenon. "All engines reverse. Maximum power," ordered Da-hyun. The ship's drives screamed in protest, but the invisible pull only grew stronger. He opened the emergency channel to Earth. "Mission Control, this is Genesis. We've encountered strange readings near coordinates 734 to 8921. Some kind of spatial distortion. All 3 ships are affected. We're attempting tow." The ship lurched violently, throwing several crew members from their stations. "Sir, the structure it's opening." Yuna pointed to the main view screen where space itself seemed to fold inward, revealing a swirling darkness unlike anything human eyes had witnessed. Da-hyun's final transmission was calm despite the chaos around him. "Mission Control, we're being pulled in. I don't think we can break free. Tell our families." The signal cut to static. On Earth, Mission Director Han watched in horror as 3 green dots representing humanity's hope for the stars winked out simultaneously. "Get them back," he ordered, his voice breaking. "Get them back now." But there was nothing to get back. No debris. No radiation signature. No distress beacon. 3 ships carrying 4,000 colonists had simply vanished. The search began immediately. Earth's space agencies pooled resources. Military vessels were dispatched. Probes were sent by the dozens. For months, they scoured the region where the colony ships disappeared. They found nothing. A year passed. Then, too, families mourned. Headlines faded. The mystery of the missing ships became a footnote in humanity's brief venture beyond the solar system. Until it happened again. The research vessel Galileo disappeared at the exact same coordinates. Then the mining ship Tungsten, a private yacht with a crew of 12. One by one, ships venturing near the coordinates vanished without trace. 10 years after the initial incident, 37 vessels had been lost. The death toll stood at 6,219. United Earth Space Command established the Proxima Boundary, a vast region of space now forbidden to all craft. Red warning buoys floated in the emptiness, their automated messages broadcasting the same warning on all frequencies. "Danger. Restricted zone. Turn back immediately." Humanity's grand dream of reaching the stars collapsed. Funding for interstellar missions dried up. Colony ships under construction were abandoned in orbital shipyards. The golden age of space exploration ended not with failure, but with fear. Lieutenant Ji-ho Park stood alone in the memorial garden, staring at the monument to the lost. His fingers traced the names etched in the cold metal: Captain Soo-min Park and Science Officer Yeon-ji Park of the Pathfinder. His parents. "You shouldn't be here," said a voice behind him. Director Han, now gray and tired, approached slowly. "Today is the anniversary. The press will arrive soon." 15 years, sir, Ji-ho said quietly. 15 years, and we've stopped looking. "We lost too many ships," Han replied. "Too many lives." Ji-ho turned to face his superior. "But we never found answers." "Some questions don't have answers, Lieutenant." "I don't believe that." Ji-ho pulled a data tablet from his jacket. "I've been reviewing the sensor data from every disappearance. There's a pattern in the quantum fluctuations just before contact is lost." Han's expression hardened. "Your request for a research mission was denied, Lieutenant. 3 times. The boundary stays closed. My parents are out there. All of them are out there." Ji-ho's voice rose with emotion. "I know they're alive." "Based on what?" Han asked sadly. "The ships didn't crash or explode. They went somewhere." Jeho looked up at the stars visible through the garden's glass dome. And one day, they'll come back. Han placed a hand on the young officer's shoulder. Let it go, son. For your own sake. But Jeho couldn't let go. While Earth turned inward, abandoning its cosmic ambitions, he dedicated himself to the mystery. Against orders, he established a secret monitoring station in the outer solar system. For years, he watched and waited, searching for any signal from beyond the boundary. Little did he know that 70 light-years away, the lost ships of Earth were not destroyed but transformed. And one day, they would indeed return, not as the vessels that left, but as something that would change the course of human history forever. Retrice F. Commander Su Bin Kang yawned as she completed her 4th hour at the monitoring station of Earth's outer defense grid. The job was important, but dull. No one had threatened Earth in decades. The station mostly tracked space debris and the occasional mining vessel. More coffee, Commander? Asked Technician Jun Seo, sliding a steaming cup across the console. Thanks. Anything on the scopes tonight? Su Bin asked, knowing the answer would be the same as every night for the past 3 years. Jun Seo shook his head. Nothing but the usual traffic around. His eyes suddenly widened as he stared at his screen. Wait. Something's wrong with the system. Su Bin leaned forward. What is it? Multiple objects appearing at the edge of our sensor range. But that's impossible. They weren't there 5 seconds ago. The alarm blared as red dots appeared on the main display. 7 objects, massive in size, had somehow materialized just beyond Neptune's orbit. Get the Admiral, Su Bin ordered, and put the fleet on alert. Within minutes, the quiet monitoring station transformed into a crisis center. Military officers crowded around screens while analysts tried to make sense of the data. They're not accelerating, Su Bin reported. They're just waiting. Admiral Taiho frowned. Waiting for what? The answer came moments later when all Earth communication systems received the same message, broadcast in perfect Korean, English, Mandarin, and every other human language simultaneously. People of Earth, we are the hegemony. We come in peace and urgently request a meeting with your leaders. The message played on repeat while Earth's military prepared for the worst. But the alien vessels made no aggressive moves. They simply waited. 3 days later, Su Bin found herself in the United Council chamber as one of the alien representatives addressed Earth's leaders. The being called itself Ambassador Kellner and resembled a tall, slender humanoid with iridescent blue skin and 4 arms. Our coalition includes 12 species from across this spiral arm, Kellner explained. For centuries, we have lived in harmony. Now, we face extinction from what we call the Void, a cosmic entity that consumes all in its path. Stars, planets, entire systems, gone. The chamber filled with murmurs as Kellner continued. We have tracked the Void's path. It will reach your solar system within 15 years. The alien's voice remained calm despite the horrifying news. Many civilizations have already fallen. But there are rumors, stories that give us hope. What rumors? Asked the council president. Stories about the missing humans. Kellner replied. Your ships that disappeared long ago. Some say they found a way to fight the Void. Su Bin felt a chill. Everyone knew the old stories about the Proxima boundary and the lost colony ships. But that was ancient history. That was 75 years ago, the admiral stated flatly. Those people are dead. Perhaps, Kellner said. But we detected energy signatures beyond the boundary that match no known technology. We believe your missing ships may have found something, a weapon or defense against the Void. The council debated for hours before reaching a decision. They would send a small team aboard the hegemony vessel to investigate these claims. Commander Su Bin Kang would represent Earth's military interests. 2 days later, Su Bin stood in her quarters aboard the alien ship called Starlight Seeker. The room had been adapted for human needs, though the curved walls and strange lighting made sleep difficult. Su Bin had been chosen not just for her military experience, but because her grandmother had been one of the engineers who designed the original colony ships. She had grown up hearing stories about the mysterious disappearances. During her third night aboard, Subin couldn't sleep. She decided to explore the less traveled corridors of the massive vessel. In a secluded section, she noticed Kelnar and another alien in intense conversation. Years of security training had taught her to read body language across species. They were arguing. She remained hidden, but activated the translation device in her pocket. "Can it tell them everything?" the unknown alien was saying. "If they learn what really happened to their ships, they deserve to know," Kelnar responded. "They are not ready. Remember the directive." Subin slipped away, her mind racing. The aliens knew something about the lost ships, something they weren't sharing. The next morning, she accessed the ship's communication array, claiming it was part of her duties. With careful manipulation, she discovered encrypted channels between the hegemony vessels. The translations were fragmentary, but one phrase appeared repeatedly: the transformed ones. Another message contained coordinates, the exact location where Earth's ships had vanished decades ago. Subin realized the hegemony wasn't telling the full story. They hadn't come to Earth seeking help. They were afraid of something beyond the Proxima boundary. Something human. As the alien fleet accelerated toward the Forbidden Zone, Subin sent a hidden message back to Earth. "They know where our people went, and they're terrified of what they've become. Retries F." The red warning buoys of the Proxima boundary floated silently in space, their flashing lights a final reminder of humanity's greatest tragedy. The hegemony vessel Starlight Seeker slowed as it approached, flanked by 2 Earth military ships that had joined the expedition after receiving Subin's message. Subin stood on the command deck beside Ambassador Kelnar, watching the boundary approach on the main viewport. "Are you certain you wish to proceed?" Kelnar asked, his 4 arms moving in nervous patterns. "No ship that has crossed this line has ever returned to Earth." "That's exactly why we must go," Subin replied. "If there's any chance our people are alive." Admiral June from Earth's vessel spoke through the communication channel. "All ships, prepare for boundary crossing. Unknown phenomena may affect systems. Maintain emergency protocols." Subin felt her heart race as the ships pushed forward into forbidden space. At first, nothing happened. Just empty vacuum dotted with distant stars. Then it began. Space itself seemed to ripple around them. The stars blurred. Warning alarms blared across all vessels as instruments failed one by one. "Some kind of spatial distortion," shouted one of the hegemony scientists. "It's pulling us in." Subin gripped a handrail as the ship shuddered violently. Through the viewport, she saw what looked like a tunnel forming in the fabric of space, not black like a hole, but shimmering with colors no human language had names for. "The corridor opens," Kelnar exclaimed, just as the records described. The ships were drawn forward, helpless against the pull. Artificial gravity failed. Emergency lights flickered. Subin felt a strange stretching sensation, as if her very atoms were being pulled apart and reassembled. Then, just as suddenly, everything stopped. The ships emerged into what appeared to be normal space, but it wasn't. The stars were arranged in unfamiliar patterns. And directly ahead, "What are those?" Subin whispered. Structures filled the viewport, massive beyond comprehension. Ring-shaped constructions larger than Earth's moon. Spherical objects that could contain entire planets. Lattices of metal and light that stretched for thousands of kilometers. "Artificial," Admiral Jones said through the now static-filled communication. "All of it." Before they could investigate further, new alerts sounded. Ships were approaching. Dozens of them, emerging from behind the massive structures. Their design was sleek, unlike the blocky hegemony vessels or the practical Earth ships. Yet something about them seemed strangely familiar. "They're hailing us," reported a communications officer. In Korean. Subin exchanged a shocked look with Kelnar, whose blue skin had paled considerably. "Put it through," she ordered. A voice echoed through the command deck, speaking with an accent that sounded slightly old-fashioned to Subin's ears. "Unidentified vessels, you have entered protected space. Identify yourselves immediately." "This is Commander Subin Kang of Earth United Defense," she responded, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "We come seeking the lost colony ships." A long pause followed. Then, "Earth vessels confirmed. Prepare for boarding." One of the unknown ships, small but elegant, docked with the Starlight Seeker. Subin, Kelnar, and a security team waited at the airlock as it cycled open. A tall man in a uniform unlike any Subin had seen stepped through. The symbol on his chest was a modified version of the old Earth Space Agency emblem. His features were clearly Asian, his bearing military. "I am Colonel Ta Wu Li, Defense Command, Human Confederation," he announced. His eyes widened slightly when he saw Kelnar. "You brought them here. Interesting choice. The hegemony came to Earth seeking help," Subin explained. "They told us about a threat called the Void." Colonel Lee's expression hardened. "Of course they did. Follow me, please. Our admiral would like to speak with you." They were escorted to the colonel's ship. As they walked through its corridors, Subin marveled at the technology. Doors opened before anyone touched them. Lighting adjusted automatically to their presence. The walls themselves seemed alive, shifting colors slightly as they passed. In a conference room, with a view of the massive structures outside, Colonel Lee finally explained. 75 years have passed on Earth," he said. "But for us, it has only been 11. Time dilation?" Subin asked, remembering her physics training. "Yes. When our ships were caught in what you call the boundary, we were pulled into a pocket dimension where time flows differently. The original colonists found themselves trapped here, with no way to return or communicate with Earth." 11 years, Subin repeated. "That means—" "Yes. Many of the original crew and colonists are still alive," Lee confirmed, "including the captains of all 3 colony ships." Kelnar shifted uncomfortably. "You must understand, humans. We discovered this region 20 of your years ago. We observed but did not interfere." Colonel Lee laughed without humor. "Is that what they told you, Commander? The truth is, they've been studying us. Afraid of us." "Afraid? Why?" Subin asked. "Because of what we became to survive," Lee said simply. "Isolated, with limited resources, facing environmental conditions humans were never meant to endure, we adapted. We developed technologies Earth scientists could never imagine." He gestured to the massive structures visible through the viewport. "Those are our homes now, our shipyards, our future, and the hegemony is right to fear us," Lee added with a cold smile, "because we are the only ones who can fight the Void. And we have been preparing for war for a very long time." Subin stood at the observation deck of the massive vessel they called the Haven, her forehead pressed against the transparent material that wasn't quite glass. Below her stretched an artificial world so vast she couldn't see its edges. Millions of people lived on its carefully designed surface, all descendants of the lost colonists or the original crew members themselves, preserved by the time dilation effect. "Impressive, isn't it?" a voice said behind her. Subin turned to find a woman in her 60s with short gray hair and the bearing of someone used to being obeyed. The insignia on her uniform marked her as the highest-ranking officer Subin had seen since arriving. "Admiral Han Song," the woman introduced herself. "I commanded the Pathfinder when we disappeared. Now I command the Armada." Subin straightened and saluted. "Commander Subin Kang, Earth United Defense." Admiral Song returned the salute with a slight smile. "At ease, Commander. Those formalities feel like something from another life now." "Admiral, I've seen 6 of these worlds since we arrived. How is this possible in just 11 years?" Admiral Song gestured for Subin to follow her to a different viewport. As they walked, people nodded respectfully to the Admiral. Subin noticed their clothing was strange. simple but made of materials that seemed to shift and adjust constantly. When we first arrived in this pocket dimension, we nearly died, Admiral Song explained. Our ships were damaged, resources were limited, but we discovered something extraordinary. They reached the new viewport, which showed a massive construction site where thousands of worker drones swarmed around what looked like the skeleton of a new artificial world. The laws of physics work differently here, Song continued. Matter can be manipulated more easily. Energy can be harvested from the dimensional boundary itself. Once we understood the principles, we advanced quickly. Su Bin watched in amazement as a drone the size of a small building effortlessly moved what appeared to be an asteroid fragment into position. We call our civilization the Armada because we never stopped being a fleet, Song said with pride. Each habitat is also a vessel. We can move our entire civilization if needed. But why? Su Bin asked. Why build on such a massive scale? The Admiral's expression turned grave. Because of what's coming. The void. She led Su Bin to a secure room where Earth's delegation and hegemony representatives were already gathered. A holographic display in the center showed a moving darkness spreading across a map of the galaxy. The void isn't just coming, Admiral Song announced to the room. It's already here. The outer systems of the hegemony have already fallen. Ambassador Kellner stepped forward, which is why we sought Earth's help. Our scientists believe the unique properties of your ships. Don't lie to them, interrupted Song sharply. You didn't come to Earth for help. You came looking for us, the ones you've been watching for 2 decades. The alien's blue skin darkened, and what Su Bin had learned was embarrassment. We observed your development, yes. You studied us like lab specimens, corrected Colonel Lee. And when you realized what we were building, you panicked. Admiral June from Earth looked confused. What exactly have they built that concerns you so much, Ambassador? Instead of answering, Admiral Song touched a control panel. The hologram changed to show a massive vessel unlike anything Su Bin had ever seen. Not a habitat, but a warship larger than Earth's moon. The Sword of Dawn, Song said simply. The first of our defense fleet. We have 12 more under construction. The Earth delegation gasped collectively. Admiral June found his voice first. How? How is such a thing even possible? The same way everything else here is possible, Song replied. Understanding and manipulating the fabric of reality itself. The next 3 days were a blur of revelations for Su Bin. The lost colonists showed the Earth delegation their society, a place where technology had evolved along entirely different lines than on Earth. Children learned to manipulate reality through thought interfaces before they could walk. Food was created by molecular assemblers. Disease was virtually unknown thanks to nanobots that lived permanently in their bloodstrings. They're still human, Su Bin told Admiral June as they discussed their findings privately. But they've become something more. Something dangerous, Jun replied quietly. Did you notice how they look at us? Like we're primitive. Wouldn't you? They've compressed centuries of advancement into 11 years. The cultural differences became clearer during a formal dinner, where Earth's delegation struggled with utensils that responded to mental commands while their hosts politely pretended not to notice. Music played without visible instruments. Lights danced in patterns that told stories without words. Later that evening, Su Bin found herself alone with Admiral Song in a garden that shouldn't have been possible on a space vessel, plants from Earth growing alongside alien species in perfect harmony. You're worried about the gap between our societies, Song said, not as a question. Su Bin nodded. I'm concerned about what happens when Earth learns about all this. People will be afraid. Just as the hegemony is afraid, Song acknowledged. But fear won't save anyone when the void arrives. The Admiral touched a flower, which brightened in response. We need Earth. We need our home. Why? Su Bin asked. You have everything here. Admiral Song looked up at the artificial sky where simulated stars twinkled. Because despite everything we've built, despite all our advancement, we never stopped being human. And humans need their family when war comes. The alert sirens wailed across the haven as Admiral Song strode purposefully into the command center. The massive view screen showed what they had feared for years, the darkness of the void spreading across the nearby star system, consuming everything in its path. "Time to arrival?" she asked calmly. 8 hours, Admiral, replied her second-in-command. "The outer sensor network is already being affected." Su Bin entered the command center with General Min-ho Choi, who had arrived from Earth just 2 weeks earlier with a fleet of 70 ships. Every combat-ready vessel Earth could muster. "Is that it?" Min-ho asked, staring at the screen. "The void." "Yes," Admiral Song confirmed, "though what you're seeing is just its effect. The void itself exists partially outside our dimension. That's why conventional weapons can't harm it. The darkness on the screen wasn't simply black. It was the absence of everything. Stars disappeared as it passed. Light itself seemed to bend around its edges." "Where is the hegemony fleet?" Su Bin asked, noticing the absence of their alien allies. A communications officer looked up from his station. "They've departed, Commander. All 12 of their capital ships jumped to faster-than-light travel 20 minutes ago." Min-ho's face hardened. "They abandoned us." "As we expected they might," Admiral Song replied without surprise. "They never intended to fight. They hoped we would do it for them." She turned to address the combined Earth and Armada officers. "It changes nothing. Deployment proceeds as planned." The next hours passed in controlled chaos as the greatest fleet ever assembled by humans prepared for battle. The 12 moon-sized warships of the Armada moved into formation, surrounded by thousands of smaller vessels. Earth's ships, though technologically inferior, took positions alongside them. Su Bin found herself aboard the flagship Sword of Dawn with Admiral Song and General Min-ho. The bridge was unlike anything on Earth. Officers connected directly to their stations through neural interfaces, information flowing at the speed of thought. "The void entities are energy parasites," Admiral Song explained as they watched the approaching darkness. "They consume the electromagnetic spectrum, then the weak and strong nuclear forces, and finally the very fabric of space-time itself." "How do you fight something like that?" Min-ho asked. "By giving them indigestion," Song replied with a grim smile. "Activate the resonance drive." Throughout the fleet, enormous engines powered up, not conventional drives, but devices that manipulated reality itself. The view screen showed space rippling around the Armada's ships. "Our vessels exist simultaneously in multiple probability states," Song explained. "The void can't consume what it can't fix in a single reality." As the darkness approached, Admiral Song gave the order, "All ships, phase shift on my mark. Now." The sensation was indescribable. Su Bin felt herself existing in multiple places at once, her consciousness stretched across possibilities. Through the view screen, she saw the void entities clearly for the first time, writhing masses of energy that seemed to fold in on themselves in impossible geometries. The battle joined. Conventional weapons from Earth's ships passed harmlessly through the void entities, but the Armada's vessels fired beams of coherent probability, forcing the entities into single states where they could be damaged. For hours, the battle raged across an entire star system. 3 of the Armada's great ships were lost, along with dozens of Earth vessels. But slowly, the tide turned. The void entities recoiled from areas where the resonance drives created probability storms. Su Bin worked tirelessly at a tactical station, coordinating Earth's forces. General Min-ho directed his ships with growing confidence as they learned to support the Armada's advanced tactics. Then Admiral Song played her final card. "All remaining capital ships, prepare for dimensional inversion," she ordered. "Earth vessels, withdraw to safe distance." The remaining 9 great warships formed a perfect circle around the densest concentration of void entities. Their resonance drives synchronized, creating a pattern of interference that tore open the fabric of space-time. "What are they doing?" Min-ho asked in awe. "Creating a bridge," Su Bin realized. They're sending the void back where it came from. A blinding flash filled the view screen. When it cleared, the darkness was gone. In its place was empty space, scattered with the debris of battle. They had won. 1 month later, a ceremony took place in orbit around Earth. The massive ships of the Armada hung in space alongside Earth's recovering fleet. On the observation deck of the United Nations Space Station, Admiral Song and General Minho signed the Treaty of Unification, formally reconnecting Earth with its long-lost children. "We return not as refugees seeking shelter," Admiral Song said to the assembled leaders of Earth, "but as family offering protection. Together, we will ensure humanity never again fears extinction." As the treaty was broadcast to both Earth and the Armada worlds, Su Bin watched from a viewport as shuttles began traveling between the fleets. Families reuniting, cultures beginning to merge. In the darkness beyond the solar system, the remaining hegemony ships watched in silence as humanity's combined fleet took its place as the dominant force in the galaxy. Not through conquest, but through survival against the greatest threat the universe had ever known. What had begun 75 years ago as a